Chair Commissioner Chris. Hello, this is Chair Commissioner Chris Downey, Chair of the California Commission on Disability Access. And I'd like to call this meeting together of the California Commission on Disability Access Executive Committee. And on this day, Wednesday, June 5th, 2024. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. And first, I'd like to turn it over to Stephanie to review the meeting protocols.
All right, this is Stephanie, and I'm about to read the protocols. This commission meeting will be on Zoom via teleconference and held at the California Commission on Disability Access headquarters located at 400 R Street, Suite 312, Sacramento, California, 95811. Virtual attendees are in compliance with the Bagley-Keene Open Meeting Act. Please remember to specify the following. If a state body member attends a meeting via teleconference from a remote location, they must disclose any individuals 18 years or older present in the room, as well as their relationship with them. The visual appearance of a member of a state body on camera may cease only when the appearance would be technologically impractical. Public comment on matters not on the agenda is taken at the beginning of the meeting. Public comments on matters on the agenda will be heard as the Commission takes up agenda items for discussion. Public comments are limited to 3 minutes. Speakers who utilize translators to make public comments will be allowed no more than 6 minutes unless they utilize simultaneous translation equipment. CCDA is precluded from discussing matters not on the agenda. However, CCDA members may ask questions for clarification purposes. This meeting is being captioned and recorded. To assist in this effort, please state your first and last name each time you speak and speak loud and clear. The Stream Text Live captioning link has been included in the chat for your use, and staff can provide the link when asked. Public participants can use the raise hand function to alert the committee of when they would like to speak. And we will also give the opportunity for public members who have called into the meeting, at which time they may unmute themselves. If you are attending this meeting via teleconference, please press *6 on your keypad to unmute or mute yourself. If you would like to alert CCDA, press *9 to telephonically raise your hand and staff will call on you. To use the raise hand function, please follow these steps. If using Zoom via web browser, first click on the icon labeled Reactions in the toolbar on the bottom center of your screen. After clicking Reactions, a new window will show on your screen. At the bottom right of your screen, there will be a button labeled Raise Hand. If using Zoom on a mobile device, first click on the 3 sideways dots labeled More. The More option is in the toolbar on the bottom right corner of the screen. Second, after clicking More, a new window will pop up at the bottom of your screen. Third, press Raise Hand. Please remember to mute yourself if you are not speaking in order to reduce noise. If you are having technical issues throughout the meeting and need assistance, please use the chat function to alert CCDA staff or email ccda@dgs.ca.gov. If you are unable to utilize the chat function to alert CCDA staff, please unmute yourself and request for permission to speak. If there are technical issues that impact the proceeding of the meeting, the body will take the following procedures. First, stay calm and reassure. Communicate to all participants that technical issues have occurred and CCDA staff is working to resolve them. Second, backup communication. Alternative messaging to all participants, mass email communication from the CCDA staff or email CCDA. Third, attempt technical reboot. CCDA staff will attempt to resolve technical issues. Fourth, adjourn meeting. If technical issues persist and compromise the meeting's purpose, the meeting will be adjourned and may be rescheduled if necessary. And Commissioner Downey, the floor is yours again.
Thank you, Stephanie. So that brings us to agenda item number 1, roll call. So back to you, Stephanie.
All right. Commissioner Holloway.
Present.
Commissioner Lillibridge.
Present.
Commissioner Dr. Sue L. Hessen.
Present.
Commissioner Dillard,
Present.
Commissioner Chair Downey.
Present.
Perfect. We have achieved, the motion carries and quorum has been achieved.
So thank you. Stephanie, are there other commissioners that are present, participating in this meeting?
Yes, we do have Commissioner Dr. Profascia with us and Commissioner Ramirez.
Hello, yes, I am present. I am on Zoom and I'm en route in a car.
Thank you,
And
Luciano.
yes, good afternoon. Buenas tardes. This is Hector. I'm joining you as a public member.
Okay, thank you, Hector. So are there any other members of the public that are joining us virtually that would like to identify themselves?
Chair Commissioner Downey, at this time, there are
Yes.
no, oh,
I do. Mackay Freeman, Systems Change Advocate at the Center for Independent Living.
Okay, thank you.
Oh.
I think I heard your name was Kate
Mackay,
Nakai.
Nikai
Nikai.
Freeman. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Any other members of the public that are joining us virtually today?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are no currently hands raised or comments in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Are there any members of the public joining us here in person in Sacramento? Okay, thank you. So with that, then we'll move on to agenda item 2, approval of the prior executive committee meetings minutes from March 6, 2024. So before asking for a motion to approve, does anybody have any questions or comments on the minutes?
This is Commissioner Lillibridge. I have just a couple very minor corrections. The first is that under commissioners present, it shows that I was remote and I was actually in person. And then on the item 12, future agenda items, Commissioner Ramirez's discussion about the Olympics. The last part of the first sentence in that should read upcoming Olympics and Paralympics games. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from members of the commission? Okay, we'll note those corrections. For that, though, I'd like to hear a motion to approve.
This is Commissioner Holloway. Have moved the minutes as corrected.
Commissioner Dillard, second.
Thank you. So with that, I believe we need to turn it back to Stephanie for a roll call vote.
Thank you, Chair Downey. Vice Chair Commissioner Holloway.
Aye.
Commissioner Lillibridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. El Hessen,
Aye.
Commissioner Drake Dillard. Commissioner Dillard, I apologize.
Aye.
Oh, thank you. Chair Commissioner Downey.
Aye.
All right. All commissioner and committee members' votes have been noted. The motion carries. The minutes have been approved as submitted by a vote of 5-0.
Thank you, Stephanie. So that brings us to item number 3, and that's items by comments and issues of the public on items that are not on the agenda. So do we have any members of the public joining today that would like to bring forward a comment item or concern to the commission?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Can you hear me? Okay, I
Yeah.
have a speech difference, so my communication may not as clear, but you're welcome to ask me to repeat. I will not. Just send it. Two concerns are I was SB 580, the going in the Senate right now, potential will weaken our 88 right to enforcement of accommodations for businesses. It's very concerning. Would like you to look into about discussing that of how do we effectively inform businesses of their rights and obligations under the ADA to enable compliance. The next one is tangentially related to business and access is regional transit plans that are removing accessible parking for those that rely and need accessible transportation, in particular, accessible vans. On the East Bay, we have propositions and developments for protected bike lanes that now we need to track farther and longer in some cases just to get on the curve and be near businesses. Businesses that have sidewalk parking is being limited, and it's being very problematic for people like me and caregivers who now have disembarked in protected bike lanes, causing us to be at risk for collision and accidents because we no longer have access to the curb. I know that's not directly under this purview of this committee, but I see in agenda item 9, you have deliberations on accessible parking campaign, and that's a concern for many of my clients and the community that I live in is maintaining accessible parking. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. Are there any other comments from members of the public joining us virtually or in person?
Chair Commissioner Downey.
Go ahead, Stephanie.
Chair Commissioner Downey, there appears to be no hands raised or comments in the chat from other members of the public.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Downey, there's no one present to comment. Thanks.
Actually, hold on. I apologize. Commissioner Ramirez appears to
I
have
thought we
their
st-
hand raised.
We still had to hold it down. The speaker raises an interesting concern that I actually share. I've noticed in the city of Sacramento, they have begun implementing what's known as smart streets system, where they reduce the number of drivable lanes, which is fine. But what they've done is adjacent to the curb and the sidewalk is where the bike lanes are moved to. And then a drive lane is converted to on-street parking. And so you park your vehicle between the bike lane and the traffic lanes. And it strikes me that it's extremely difficult for accessible passengers or drivers that you either exit into the ongoing traffic lane or you exit into the bike lane. And it might be something that we might want to take a look at, because I'm sure the city hasn't really given it a lot of thought. The city of Sacramento hasn't given a lot of thought as to the impact to the accessible community in terms of parking. Just a thought.
Thank you for that comment. Yeah, I'm aware of this issue in numerous cities around the state. So interesting. So we can take that in consideration for future meetings, future work. Thank you. Are there any other comments from members of the public?
Chair Commissioner Downey, Commissioner Ramirez has their hand raised.
Commissioner Ramirez?
Thank you. Good afternoon, commissioners. LA County is home to the second largest LGBTQIS2S youth and adult population in the nation. We're only second to Washington, D.C. But when it comes to numbers, both LA County and California happen to have one of the largest number of individual residents that identify from the queer community. Pride Month, which began in 1971 with the Christopher Street Pride Parade here in West Hollywood, has since grown to include many spirited community celebrations established here countywide and throughout the state. June is Pride Month, so I definitely wanted to share that with you. Secondly, I really wanted to inform you of some ongoing changes both in the workforce here in California and the legislative process that has now come throughout the state. California hosted to the Little River Commission a generative AI meeting in which they've met both with business, labor, and academia to discuss some of the possible implications and recommendations that the State of California and the Little River Commission can take. One of the things that was really noticeably absent from the conversation was not only the stakeholder conversation, but people with disabilities. We know that AI, like all technology, has the potential to really, really transform and assist us in our daily lives. But we also know that without having people with disabilities at the table while this new technology developments and policy regulations are being developed, oftentimes both accessibility, user interface, and the impact that it has on people with disability can be mitigated if we're at the beginning. Unfortunately, right now, still that hasn't happened, but we still have an opportunity to ensure that both the Disability Commission population and this commission are actively involved in those discussions. AI as a technology is now very much available to the general public, and many private sectors and public sectors, industries are utilizing it. Here in this Zoom meeting, we actually have AI, but if we don't know how to use it, how it can impact our privacy, or even the accidental utilization of it, it can definitely have significant impact for people with disabilities, seniors, and those of us that don't have a lot of experience, both with the processes in which they're being used, but also with the way in which they collect and track our personal data. I again just wanted to share this with you and thankful for being here with all of you today.
Thank you. Are there any other further comments from members of the public?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there appears to be no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the public.
Thank you. And do we still have no members of the public joining us in person? Okay, thank you. So with that, if there are no further comments, we'll move on to agenda item number 4, which is a update and discussion regarding the executive director's report and financial report. So for that, I'll turn it over to our executive director, April Dawson Rawlings.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Downey. This is April. I'll start with program highlights. I'm happy to report that CCDA partnered with the County of Monterey Office of Civil Rights to conduct a listening forum in April that was attended by representatives from small businesses as well as the disability community. And we were able to fruitfully have a lot of future relationships that were built. We made a great relationship with the Monterey Peninsula Chamber, as well as the organization Building Business Back, which is part of the Monterey County Business Council. And I really look forward to future interactions with them and ways that we can really build from that listening forum. We also partnered with the Pacific ADA Center and the City of Sunnyvale to conduct an ADA Title II/ADA Title III training webinar for city staff and area businesses at the end of April. That was also well attended, and we were able to train city staff on their Title II obligations, as well as area businesses on their Title III obligations, and where those two titles sometimes intersect, such as related to service animals. So that was a great experience, and we are looking forward to, as I said before, working with the City of Sunnyvale to further that relationship. Also, we partnered with the Pacific ADA Center again in the first of a 3-part webinar series for small businesses in May, and we spoke about the Title I of the Americans with Disabilities Act, which has to do with employment, as well as Title III, which has to do with places of public accommodations. And we talked about how to accommodate employees with disabilities as well as customers with disabilities. And so that was also well attended. We're averaging about 30 people per webinar, 25 to 30 people. So we'll keep building that up. And our second webinar in the business series will be on July 18th. And then we will have another webinar in September, which is in partnership with the Pacific ADA Center. In terms of commissioner vacancies, we have 1 vacancy on the CCDA representing the interests of people with disabilities, which former Chair Emeritus Commissioner Lemus, that is his former seat, and the appointing authority is the Senate Rules Committee. I have been in communication with the Senate Rules Committee, and I'll update the Executive Committee and the full commission on whether or not a candidate has been moving through the process. And I'll give everyone updates when I know more. In terms of reappointments, I'm happy to report that Chair Commissioner Downey, Commissioner Lillibridge, Commissioner Dr. Prafatsa, who are all governor appointees, were confirmed by the Senate at the end of May. And Commissioner Shapiro, who is also a governor appointee, was confirmed by the Senate in February. So all of our governor appointees are officially Senate confirmed. We are still awaiting the reappointment of Commissioner Leon Vasquez, who is a Speaker of the Assembly appointee, and she will continue to serve until we hear more from the Speaker of the Assembly. So I'll let you know how that reappointment is going. In terms of staffing updates, I just wanted to share that Executive Director Dawson Rawlings, I recently completed the examination for the ADA Coordinator Training Certificate program through the Great Plains ADA Center, which means that I can have the initials ADAC after my name, and it means that I, have a beyond working knowledge of all the ADA titles, and that I'm just furthering my education as a technical expert in that area. And so I'm proud to be a part of that. I'm also excited to say that CCDA is now fully staffed. We hired a program technician and a staff services analyst. Our staff services analyst is here today, Amber, and Sabina is our program tech, and they both recently started, and we're really excited that they're here. So welcome. Congratulations on your CCDA journey, which means we are now a mighty staff of 7. I want to share a few financial operational highlights before I deep dive into the financials themselves. I'm going to be sharing the Q3 financials, including the high frequency litigant fund spin down report, and I'll be reviewing that. I also wanted to share that we continue to meet with budgets and contracts monthly just to get a sense of our spending, as well as the contracts that are in the queue, contracts that have been executed, timelines, keeping up, making sure that we don't miss any important deadlines and making sure that expenditures are in line with how much we have to spend in each contract. So that's been a good relationship to do monthly. I also wanted to share that the May revise of the governor's budget was released. And there is a trailer bill language in the May revise that will be that is asking for a fund shift for CCDA. So those of you who are policy wonks who may have deep dived, I have gotten a couple of questions about that. People who've deep dived into the May revise and the trailer bill language. There is a proposed funding shift for CCDA to take us from the general fund to the disability access account. And then there's no change proposed to the high frequency litigant fund portion of our funding. So it doesn't do anything significant to our operations or how much our allocation is. It just means it's going from one fund to another. And that'll actually be reducing our general fund presence. Will actually probably be a good thing in this budget climate. So, and then I wanted to share that myself and operations manager Phil McFall initiated our lease renewal with the real estate services division. Our lease was most recently, our lease for our one building was most recently approved, but it takes 2 years for DGS to go through the process for the next renewal. So we had to start 2 years early. So this will be for our 2026 lease renewal. And the plan would be, our ask is that we remain in the Heinz building at 400 R Street. And that we'd have a 4 years firm, 4 years soft, total 8-year lease is what we proposed. So we'll be working with them and working through that process. And I always just for the sake of being transparent, share the meetings and conferences I've attended. I won't go through all of them, but I'll share that I attended the Great Plains ADA Center virtual symposium recently, and I learned quite a bit about different aspects of the ADA. I learned quite a bit about effective communication in different professional environments. And I also learned a lot about ADA access related to websites and the WCAG 2.0 and updates. And I intend to go every year to the virtual symposium, and hopefully someday I'll be able to go to the in-person one that takes place at different parts throughout the state. And now I just want to, after I take a breath, go into a little bit of the financials. And after I finish speaking to the financials, I'll take questions on my narrative as well as the financial report. So up on the screen, there is a picture of a one-page financial spreadsheet. I'm going to give a high-level version. If you have any questions about the deeper dive, if I don't have the answer here, I can take it back to our budget analyst and get that answer for you. So our total budget authority, which includes our general fund as well as our high frequency litigant fund allocations, is $1,911,000. So a little over $1.9 million. Personal services, our total budget authority, that's things like staff salaries and benefits. Our budget authority is $810,000, and this is year to date through Q3. We're now almost to the end of Q4, and I know that I've shared with you that it's not uncommon for me. It's quite normal for me to be giving budget information that's from 1 to 2 quarters ago. If I go further than that, though, you should really question me and say, why are we a year out? So we're right where we should be. So we've spent down 61% of our budget authority as of the end of Q3. We've spent $491,117. Part of that cost savings has to do with the fact that we just recently became fully staffed. So we had 2 open positions up until the end of April and then the end of May. So that's why it's 61% and not 100%. But so we're projecting like 85% spent by Q4. So our operating, which is operating, things like doing this, going to meetings, traveling, all the things that we need to spend down to become what we need to be for the commission, is a little over $1.1 million. Keep in mind, I know this looks a little bit low that we've only spent 35% at the end of Q3, but that is because quite a few of our encumbrances are going to be spent down in Q4. And so we don't have all those reconciliations yet. We are spending down the contracts we have, and I'm going to be talking a little bit about the high frequency litigant in a second. But so as of Q3, we have a budget authority of 1.1 million, and we've spent down 347,548. But we're projecting that we're going to be spending more than that. And you'll be able to see the Q4 at a future meeting where you'll be able to see how we spent those funds down. And now I'm going to take a breath. And I really wanted to.
Excuse me, Executive Director April Dawson-Rawlings. The captioner has requested that you slow down when talking about numbers.
I will slow down when talking about numbers. I apologize for that. And if you have questions about the minutes, I will be happy to help you. Or if you miss something that's important, just interrupt me and I will help you with that. So I've talked a lot about the high frequency litigant fund, and the high frequency litigant fund came about through legislation and a government statute that gives us, I really wanted to kind of pull back and kind of explain what a high frequency litigant is when you think about how it's defined in statute, how this fund came about, and then talk a little bit about the spend down of those funds, so that the executive committee can really effectively, manage me and also manage how we're doing with spending down those funds. And so a high frequency litigant means that they can either be a plaintiff who has filed 10 or more complaints alleging a construction-related accessibility violation within a 12-month period, or it could be an attorney with that same definition. It could be an action in which an early evaluation conference was held, or an action in which a judgment was entered in favor of the plaintiff, or it could be an action that was related to a demand letter. And it also does not include attorneys that represent like legal aid, for example, like indigent legal aid. So that's exempt. And so a fund was established, and for every $1,000 fee, CCDA receives $500 of that. So that is how that fund is generated. So in the past, when I've described this fund, I've described it in terms of a large pot of money, but it's really year-to-year allocations. So I'm going to read what's on the screen, and I'll go slow. So our 2021-2022 allocation from that fund was $152,000. And our allocation from 2022-2023 was $197,000. For the 2021 allocation, we have until the end of this month to encumber the funds. And we also have for the 2022-2023 encumbrance of the $197,000, we have until the end of next June to spend down to encumber those funds. And so what I wanted to share with you is just that every year, as long as that allocation is still in the Budget Act, we'll still receive that money every year. We're still waiting to hear more information about our 23-24 allocation. And when I get more firm about that, I'll share that with you at a future meeting. And the reason why that's important for the executive committee to know is that I want you to know that it's a yearly allocation that's in the Budget Act, and it's in statute that we receive money from that fund, which means that now we can be a little more planful rather than thinking about it as one pre-existing pot of money. We can think of it as, every year, let's think about how we want to spend those funds in a more planful way. Not that we haven't been planful, I think we have, but we'll be able to be even more precise and planful and more dynamic in our discussions. So some of the numbers that you'll see are not accurate as of today's date. They're accurate as of when this was pulled, and this was pulled right before Q3 numbers were available. So it shows that we encumbered $75,000 of the 152. And we also, it also shows that we spent down 7,000, a little less than 7,000 of the 197. Actually, by the end of this year, we will have spent down the majority of the 2021 encumbrance, and we will have taken a chunk from the 2022-2023. And so we're still on track to spend those funds down, but the total amount that we had to expend when this was pulled was $266,742. And so I know that seems like quite a bit, but between our language access and our listening form work and our translations of documents, as well as some planned work that we're doing for our conference room technology to make sure that we're reaching out to more rural partners, we actually are on track to be spending down those funds by those deadlines. So I know that was a lot of information, but I really just wanted to share more of a deeper dive than I have had in the past about how these funds are where they come from, what they mean, and how they come to be a part of our budget and how we're able to spend those down. So I know I gave a lot of information. So I'm happy to share any questions or answers that I can. I'm happy to answer any questions about my narrative or about any of my discussion. Thank you.
This is, sorry. Okay, now it's on. Okay. This is Chair Commissioner Downey. Are there any questions or comments from members of the executive committee that are here in person on this agenda item?
No, Phil stepped out, but no one is here.
Oh, no, this is for members of the executive committee.
Sorry.
Hearing none, are there any questions or comments from members of the executive committee that are joining us virtually?
Chair Commissioner Downey, this is Stephanie, and currently there are no hands raised or comments in the chat from commissioners attending virtually.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments on this agenda item from members of the public that are joining us virtually?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are no
Yes.
hands raised. Oh, hang on. There
Sorry.
is a Mackay Freeman.
I'm sorry, type get to the unmute in time. How can I get a copy of the high litigation fund list?
Yes.
Hi, Mackay. This is April. So are you referring to our top 10 list or are you referring to the names of everyone who so there's
The top 10 list.
no problem. So every year we publish the top 10 list, and starting not this year, but starting next year, we will start naming the law firms. They're the top 10 most frequent litigants in the cases that we receive through our portal. And so and also if you like, you could submit a Public Records Act request. And when you submit the Records Act request, you would just email us at ccda@dgs.ca.gov in order to get the names of the top 10 law firms that report to our portal. There may be some law firms that should be reporting to our portal that are not in compliance with that. And so in that case, we can research how you could actually get the names of all the all-encompassing high-frequency litigant attorneys and law firms. And so if you email us at ccda@dgs.ca.gov and just request that information through a Public Records Act request, then Phil and I will take that back and work on that for you.
Thank you very much.
Chair Downey. Giving the groups of attorneys, the high frequency litigants, giving them, calling them the top 10 actually makes it sound like a good thing. Could we rename it to something more appropriate, like worst 10 or something like that? It's not a list that one strives to get on. Just my personal opinion.
This is. So I'm not sure the top, maybe there could be another name for it, but I don't think it needs to in any way imply bias one way or the other. I think it's best as a fairly generic statement of fact. It's more straightforward. So perhaps there might be a more direct wording that might be less implicit than top 10. So. Any other comments from members of the public on this agenda item?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there appears to be no hands raised, but there is a comment on that last wording point that was brought up about perhaps 10 most frequent from John Kotick in the chat.
Okay, this is Chair Commissioner Downey. I'm sorry, I didn't catch what the comment was.
Oh, the comment was perhaps the wording should be 10 most frequent from instead. But also Commissioner Dr. Alhassan also is saying the audio keeps cutting out. So just be aware.
Thank you for that. If there are no further comments, we'll move on to agenda item 5, I believe it is. That's updating discussion regarding the CCDA strategic plan. And for that, I'll refer it back to April Dawson-Rawlings.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Downey. I just want to give the executive committee and those present an update on where we are with our strategic plan RFP that was put out. And so our contract RFP is still in the analyst queue, and we are next to be assigned an analyst. I found out Monday that we will be assigned an analyst probably this week, which means that the RFP will be reviewed by the analyst, and then we'll be able to go out for procurement. But while we were waiting for that, because I know it's been a couple of months, I was able to work with the contracts unit supervisor to sort of update a lot of the language based on the commission's feedback, as well as updating the rubric for selecting the that we would like to use for selecting the consultant that will help guide our work for the strategic plan. And so it's moving along. And even though I know it seems like it's been going on for a while, it's actually kind of right on target of where I thought we would be. So we're still well on our way to having our strategic plan moving forward. And so the next step after it goes to procurement and goes through that process and the consultant is selected is that, well, excuse me, let me pull back. Before the consultant is selected, it'll go out for procurement, and then a committee of evaluators, which is 3 to 5 people, will work to select. We'll go through the applications from the people who have answered the bid. And I asked a couple of questions of our contracts unit, because I wanted to be clear, because the commission was very clear that we wanted to make sure that at every step of the process, we look at equity and that we have a diverse group of stakeholders, participating. And so I wanted to make sure that we could have the flexibility of having a diverse group of stakeholders reviewing the proposals. And so they're taking that back. Under their provisions, it's looking like those stakeholders have to be state employees. And so I said, well, what about commissioners? And so they're taking that back to see if commissioners can be on the selection committee for the consultant, or if If it is only state employees, then we'll make sure that the 3 to 5 people who evaluate who should be our consultant will come from the groups that we work with within state service that make up the representation of the diversity of the state. So we'll find a way to get through that. And then once that happens and we select a consultant, then I'll circle back with Commissioner Dr. L. Hessen to talk about next steps. And I'll work with the staff to make sure that we set up all of our 2025 stakeholder engagement sessions and set the consultant up for success, and work with the full commission on every step of the process, and hope to have the 3 to 5 year strategic plan for review to the commission before the end of 2025. Thank you.
Thank you, Executive Director April Dawson Rawlings. Do we have any questions on this agenda item from members of the Executive Committee joining us here in person? Hearing none, are there any comments from members of the Executive Committee that are joining us virtually on this agenda item?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are currently no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the Executive Committee attending virtually.
Thank you. Are there any comments from members of the public joining us virtually on this agenda item?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are currently no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the public attending virtually.
Thank you. And I presume we still have no members of the public here with us in person.
That's correct.
All right. Then we'll move on. If there are no further comments, then we'll move on to agenda item 6. So that brings us to the update and discussion regarding bylaws. And once again, we'll turn it over to our Executive Director, April Dawson Rawlings.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Downey. This is April. I just want to give an update on where we are with our bylaw revisions. Every 2 years, the Executive Committee reviews our bylaws and makes either generic or substantive changes depending on what is going on in the world and with our commission. Where we are in that process is, for the last few months, we have been working with our Office of Legal Services representative. And she has been helping us with some edits. We did meet with the commission a couple of commission meetings ago. The full commission and the Executive Committee had some comments and questions about the initial drafts that we shared, and we incorporated those and then took them back to legal. And it took some time. Legal needed to take some time to review those, but I met with our legal representative on Friday, who reviewed and we reviewed her most recent edits. Just in general, they were mostly related to how we could clarify our intent behind each of the changes we wanted to make. So it was a little bit more wordsmithing they wanted us to do. And they also wanted us to be more clear about who had the authority to speak on behalf of the entire commission to bodies and to the governor. And so we're gonna take those, staff is gonna take those suggestions, and then the next step will be to bring the hopefully final draft, or the second to last final draft of the bylaws, to the Executive Committee. So OLS felt that we weren't going to be at a place to publicly share those yet, but I do want to let you know that at the next Executive Committee meeting, our goal is to present the most recent draft, as well as making sure that we're transparent, and we'll be able to show you the journey between what they looked like before and what they are proposed to look like now, so that the Executive Committee can see if they feel comfortable with the draft that we're going to go with. And so that's where we're at with the bylaws. And I look forward to finalizing this project in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you for that report and for all the hard work behind the scenes. Thanks for pushing it along. So are there any comments from members of the executive committee that are here in person today on this agenda item? Hearing none, are there any comments from members of the executive committee that are joining us virtually?
Chair Commissioner Downey, this is Stephanie, and there are currently no hands raised or comments from executive committee members attending in virtually.
Thank you. With that, then we'll turn to the members of the public. Are there any comments on this agenda item from members of the public joining us virtually?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are currently no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the public.
Thank you. I assume we're still on our lonesome here in Sacramento? So-
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, with that, if there are no further comments, we'll move on to agenda item 7, I believe it is. And that's update and discussions regarding listening forums. And if I'm not mistaken, once again, it's back to our executive director, April Dawson Rawlings.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Downey. This is April. Well, I am really excited to share that our next listening forum will be on June 26, 2024, which is also the same date as our full commission meeting. I'll be talking a little bit about how the format of the full commission meeting will be a little different at the next agenda item, but we will be having our listening forum in person from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Orange County Hilton Airport Hotel. A lot of words there. And we'll be following a similar format that we have for our Monterey and our San Jose listening forums. And it will start off with a Business Access 101 training by Commissioner Ida Claire, who's also the state architect. And we are also going to then go into a panel conversation with the Dale McIntosh Center, which is the Center for Independent Living serving Orange County, as well as a local Chamber of Commerce representative and a certified access specialist, the Newport Beach Chamber of Commerce, and a local certified access specialist. And we'll be having a conversation about, what are some of the barriers to access to businesses in Orange County, and how can businesses, local government, the state, and the disability community work together, as well as access professionals work together to overcome those challenges and ensure equal access in Orange County, and also to celebrate the wins and where we're at doing well, and how CCDA can play a role in helping with that. We will have American Sign Language as well as CART, and we will also have languages available upon request, languages other than English available upon request. So we will make sure that we're fully accessible there. And if you go to our website, www.dgs.ca.gov/CCDA. There is a page about our listening forum, and you can access the flyers in the threshold languages of Orange County. And you can, that's actually not the correct flyer, but that's okay. We'll talk about that in a moment. And you'll be able to register when you click on the appropriate flyer for your language. And one other thing about the listening forum is that you'll also be able to ask an access question in advance. Commissioner Claire will answer access questions submitted in advance. And if there's time live, she'll also answer them live. Anything that is submitted in advance will be read anonymously, so it won't be associated with the person that asked the question. I also want to remind the public that CCDA is not an enforcement agency, so you can be sure that when you attend our events, you don't have to worry if you're concerned about compliance for your business and you voice that. It's a safe space to do that, and it's a place to learn. It's not a place to be reported for your access violations. So we want to help you with those. So that people can enjoy your business and you get more customers. So I highly recommend, if you are a local business or a chamber in Orange County, or if you're a local government official, or if you are an access professional working in Orange County, or an advocate for people with disabilities in Orange County, I highly recommend that you register and attend our event on June 26th from 3 to 5 p.m. You'll also have a chance when you register to list any other accommodations you may need that aren't being provided just as a universal design measure. So just let us know how we can accommodate you, and we'll do our best to do so. And with that, I'm excited to take any questions about our upcoming event.
Okay, thank you for that report and update. At this time, do we have any questions or comments on this report on the listening forums from members of the executive committee that are here in person?
This is Commissioner Dillard. I think you addressed this, but we have the meeting prior to this, which is going to end at what time?
It'll go from 10 to, I'll tell, the full commission meeting will go from 10 to 1, and then there will be a break to organize the room. And then then we will have the listening forum from 3 to 5. I'll talk a little bit more about that too.
Any other questions or comments from members of the executive committee here in person? Hearing none, are there any questions or comments from members of the executive committee joining us virtually?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are currently no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the executive committee who are attending virtually. Can you also just be closer to your mic if possible? Thank you.
Thank you. That my mic managed to be lower than I thought it was. So
That
thank
sounds
you.
much better. Thank you.
So with that, are there, let's see, lost track. Did I ask for what comments from members of the public joining virtually?
You had not, and we do have a hand raised
Okay.
from Mikhail Freeman.
Yes,
Yes.
Jasmine again. Just having a question about outreach. Wondering how associations, business associations, cultural business associations, how they are reached out to participate in these listening forums. I think it's very crucial step for those who are new businesses and may not know their responsibilities and obligations to participate, have data on their attending. Thank you.
Hi, Makai. That's a great question. So for this particular listening forum, we heavily relied on the Dale McIntosh Center, who is on the ground working with a lot of different diverse communities in Orange County, including people with disabilities. And they were able to get us in touch with basically over 70 organizations. So we reached out to about 40 chambers of commerce, as well as 30 representative organizations that represent people with disabilities or racial justice or LGBTQI plus justice organizations. And we were able to tell them about our forum. And then after that, we sort of put together I have a couple of people from those outreaches that sort of became our sort of unofficial outreach committee that is helping us spread the word. And so your question really leads me to kind of share that what we try to do for each of these forums is make sure that we're working with our partners, since we're a state organization, and we want to make sure that we're building the capacity of the localities. We want to make sure that we're not just coming in as the state and doing our outreach the way we think we should. We ask our core partners, how do you think we should reach out to people? So that's what we did in this case. And we think that that's been pretty successful. And that's also how we were able to gather the majority of our panelists, was through outreach like that. So I totally agree with you, and always welcome to suggestions about how to improve our outreach for these events. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there, this is Chair Commissioner Downey, are there any further comments from members of the public on this agenda item that are joining us virtually?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are currently no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the public attending virtually.
Okay, thank you. Are there any members of the public here in person that wish to address this?
Chair Commissioner Downey, no, we don't have anyone here in
Okay.
attendance.
Thank you. If there's no further comments, we'll move on to agenda item 8, and that is an update and report on our social media pilot. And once again, I hope you had a chance to catch your breath. It's back to our Executive Director, April Dawson-Rawlings.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Downey. I just wanted to share that our social media pilot has been really successful. We're meeting all of our metric goals for making sure that we over the next 6 months. This started in September. No, that doesn't make sense. This started in March and ends in September. I was like, what month are we in? So starting in March, we launched a social media pilot with Department of General Services, and we have a Facebook page and a YouTube channel, and that has been very successful. And we have quite a few followers, and we're making our we had to make sure that we maintained at least 90 followers every month, and we're well exceeding that. We're over 150 followers. And so I'm really excited that we're doing that. We're also going to be partnering with the Office of Public Affairs on a series of 10 videos, a series of 10 training videos. This is just the initial 10, and they're going to build on each other. They're going to be on the topics of effective communication, accessible parking, maintaining accessible features, and who is CCDA are some of the topics that will build on each other for these 10 video series. And we intend to work with the Office of Public Affairs as well as local businesses and stakeholders on so that we could show diversity when we have them appear in those videos, and also review the scripts for those videos. And so I'm really excited about that. So that's going on with our social media. Please like us and follow us on Facebook and YouTube, and also share out. That's where you can learn about our past meeting recordings and all of our training recordings, as well as our flyers for our recent events and links to our webpage. And so I'm really excited, and I hope that you will take the time to do that and share it out, and get your stakeholders involved, your communities of interest and your stakeholders involved in liking and sharing what we're doing, so we can spread the word. Thank you.
Thank you for that report. Are there any members of the Executive Committee that are here in person that would like to address this agenda item? Okay, hearing none, are there any comments from members of the Executive Committee that are joining us in virtually?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there appears to be no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the Executive Committee who are attending virtually.
Thank you. Are there any comments from members of the public on this agenda item that are joining us virtually?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there appears to be no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the public attending virtually.
Thank you. Have there been any members of the public to join us here in person?
We still have no members.
All right, thank you. With that, if there are no further questions, we'll race on along to agenda item 9. That is, oh yeah, the update and discussion regarding the accessible parking campaign, otherwise known as APC. So off to you, Executive Director April Dawson-Rawlings.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Downey. I just wanted to report that the final versions of the accessible parking campaign toolkits have been distributed to the work groups so that they can distribute them to their communities of interest. We also have a website landing page on our CCDA website, and we plan to have meetings with several membership organizations such as the CSLB to talk about how to spread the word among their communities of interest about the accessible parking campaign and how to partner with them, whether that's through a webinar or through a one-pager, or how we get those things out. What you see on the screen is about a webinar collaboration. So that's actually, we can disregard that. Yeah, let's go back to the agenda. But so for the accessible parking campaign, we also will be in the next day or so, distributing the final drafts to the full commission and to our stakeholder list on our email listserv. And so I encourage you to take those, to take the toolkits to your communities of interest and spread the word and let people know about them. We are really looking forward to also incorporating some of what we put into those toolkits into our video series and being really creative with the outreach. So I'm really looking forward to it. We also have sent the versions that are available now are the English versions of the two toolkits. We have sent the two toolkits to our language access provider to have them translated. So we're looking forward to having those back. Thank you so much. That is what I have for APC.
Thank you for that report. And it's exciting to be on the precipice of it hitting the world out there around us. Thanks for all the work by the staff and especially our toolkit committee. I believe that's chaired by our Commissioner Drake Dillard. So thank you for your work on that. Any comments for members of the public, of members of the executive committee on this agenda item?
Commissioner Dillard, I'd like to also thank staff. This has been a long time coming, and I'm happy to see it at the finish line here. So I look forward to receiving copies. Thank you.
This is Chair Commissioner Downey. I'd like to, as we've talked, alluded to the time, I think it's been a lengthy process given the thoroughness of the process, a process that included a lot of listening to the community and evolving what it is this was to do and the communities it was to address. So I think it's far more important to be mindful of the service we need to perform and who we need to speak with and focus on that. That's far more important than racing it off just to tick that box. So thanks for the diligence and the care that was brought to bear on that toolkit. Any other comments from members of the executive committee here in person on this agenda item? Hearing none, off to you in virtual land. Any members of the executive committee joining us virtually that would like to address this agenda item?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are currently no hands raised from members of the executive committee attending virtually.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public that would joining us virtually that would like to address this agenda item?
Yes, Commissioner Downey, we have a hand raised from Mackay Freeman or Mackay.
Okay. Thank you, Mackay. Floor is yours.
Yes, I want to thank the committee for this campaign. It's much needed and helpful. As well again mentioned, due to concerns about smart streets, many businesses in my community are not able to have accessible parking. So I just ask that sometime in the future, if you can put that on your agenda. Thank you.
Thank you for that comment. This is Chair Commissioner Downey. Are there any further comments from members of the public joining us virtually on this agenda item?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are currently no hands raised or comments in the chat from other members of the public attending virtually.
Thank you. Are there any members of the public joining us here in person?
We still do not have anyone here joining us
Okay, thank
in
you.
person.
So with that, if there are no further questions, I think I got behind on my agenda. Give me just a second. Okay, agenda item 10, update and discussion regarding the CCDA annual report. And again, back to our executive director, April Dawson-Rawlings.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Downey. This is April. I just want to let you know that our annual report for 2023 is in the hands of the Office of Legislative Affairs, and our legislative analyst has reviewed the draft and has sent it to her management. And once their management finishes reviewing the draft, it will be forwarded up to agency and then up the chain and then to the legislative staff and reps. And as soon as we are able to publicly release it, we will do so. And I plan to do a deeper dive of some of the data at a future meeting. I just need to do that once it's the draft is approved. So looking forward to sharing those takeaways with you. That's all I have for this agenda item.
Thank you for that brief report. Any comments from members of the executive committee on this agenda item? Joining us, that's from executive members joining us virtually. Start there.
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are currently no hands raised from members of the executive committee attending virtually.
Thank you. Are there any comments from the members of the executive committee that are here in person? Hearing none, we'll move on to see if there are any comments or questions from members of the public that are joining us virtually.
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are currently no hands raised from members of the public attending virtually.
Thank you. And I assume no members of the public have slipped in silently.
That's correct.
We'll move on to agenda item 11. So that agenda item 11 is an update regarding our next full commission hearing. And again, we'll turn to our executive director, April Dawson-Rawlings.
Thank you, Chair Commissioner Downey. As I mentioned earlier, our next full commission meeting will be paired with our listening forum, and we will be in Orange County, and we will it will be taking place at the Orange County Hilton Airport Hotel, and the morning session will be our full commission meeting, and that will include a presentation by CCDA Commissioner and State Architect Ida Claire. And we will be discussing many of the items that have been on this agenda as well. And that will be from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And then in the afternoon, we're going to take a short break for lunch and give staff time to switch around the room. And then we will conduct our in-person Orange County Listening Forum from 3 to 5 p.m. I do want to share, make sure that you check your email in the coming days, because a staff person is going to email you about how lunch is going to go. Lunch is going to go a little bit differently due to the fact that we had to contract with the hotel. So we won't be able to bring the lunch in, but there is an on-site restaurant that everyone can go to. And we'll talk a little bit about how those procedures are going to go. So it'll be a little bit different than how we've done it in the past. So just check your email if you're a commissioner, and if you're a member of the public, you won't get an email, so don't worry. So that's what I have for the full commission meeting. So we look forward to seeing everyone there. Thanks.
Thank you for that report. And unfortunately, I won't be there for that hearing, but I wish everyone well. It sounds like a very important meeting coming up on June 26th. So thanks for that report. Any other comments from members of the executive committee here in person? Hearing none, are there any comments from members of the executive committee joining us virtually?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are currently no hands raised or comments in the chat from executive committee members attending virtually.
Are there any questions or comments from members of the public joining us virtually on this agenda item?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are currently no hands raised or comments from members of the public attending virtually.
Okay, thank you. Any members of the public that have joined us in person that would like to address this agenda item?
No, they have not.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to agenda item 12, and that is any comments or suggestions regarding future agenda items. So for that, Executive Director April Dawson-Rawlings gets a break. I'll turn it to open it up to members of the executive committee that are here in person that would like to make a suggestion for future agenda items?
This is Commissioner Dillard. I'm thinking out loud here, but I am wondering how can we, in trying to address at least some comments made today about parking on the street, I believe. I'm wondering, can we somehow have that as a topic in the future?
Thank you for that comment, Commissioner Dillard. And yes, given the preponderance of this issue and prevalence across the state, certainly worth looking into to see how we can incorporate and address that. But thank you for that, and thank you for that prior comment from the public. So, are there any further comments, suggestions from members of the executive committee that are here in person? Hearing none, are there any comments of future agenda items from members of the executive committee that are joining us virtually?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are currently no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the executive committee attending virtually.
Okay, thank you. Are there any comments or regarding potential future agenda items from members of the public joining us virtually?
Chair Commissioner Downey, there are currently no hands raised or comments in the chat from members of the public attending virtually.
Thank you. And I presume nobody arrived late from the public here in person, so we'll move on. Actually, I'll close out that agenda item just with a reminder, as we've discussed, this next hearing will be on June 26th and on Orange County, the Orange County Airport Hilton, if I got that right. 1800 MacArthur Boulevard in Irvine, California. So if there are no further comments on that, agenda item 13, that's motion to adjourn. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Could I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. I believe that was Commissioner Lillibridge here in person for the motion, and Dr. El Hassan of the commission virtually for the second. So thank you for that. Stephanie will need to take a roll call vote on that.
Yes, Chair Commissioner Downey, I will be taking the roll call vote now. Vice Chair Commissioner Holloway,
Aye.
Commissioner Scott Lillibridge,
Aye.
Commissioner Dr. Sue L. Hessen,
Aye.
Commissioner Dillard,
Aye.
and Chair Commissioner Downey.
Aye.
Okay. All commissioner and committee members' votes have been noted. And the vote carries.
Thank you for that. And with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.